Tonight, all the reaction as the voice is silenced, plus the breakdown on how your suburb voted. A week of mourning announced by Indigenous leaders, what the defeat means going forward. Plus, fresh plans to evacuate Aussies out of Israel amid bloodshed in the mass exodus of Gaza. Hundreds of supporters fill our CBD as families desperately wait to be reunited. And the WA cancer survivors putting their bodies on the line in a 24-hour mega fundraiser.
This is 9 News Perth with Natalia Cooper.
Good evening. The aftermath of the overwhelming no to the voice to Parliament is being felt here and across the country tonight. The blame game heating up across the state over why the referendum was resoundingly rejected in WA. Both sides still calling for a plan to try to close the gap.
A final end to a long campaign.
Ladies and gentlemen, the big event commences now. You may start formality checking and counting.
But by the time votes were being counted in WA, the voice had already been defeated.
It was an overwhelming rejection of the proposal put forward by Anthony Albanese. It was not a rejection of reconciliation.
Whilst there is disappointment, there is shedding of tears, there is a moment to reflect, but then come together.
Just 2 of our 15 federal electorates voted yes, Perth and the Teal seat of Curtin.
I think that people in my electorate just could see that it was high return and low risk, and we did our best to get that messaging out there.
Critics laying part of the blame for WA's resounding no on the state government's botched Aboriginal cultural heritage laws, backed and then scrapped by Roger Cook.
The Premier does need to take some responsibility for this.
Timing of the row over the WA heritage laws could not have been worse for the yes case.
The lack of detail also a key concern.
Despite cultural heritage, our Prime Minister was still unable to provide the details that the broader population wanted.
We're more divided now than we were a year ago, and that sits squarely on the Prime Minister.
If it had been 2 questions, then I'm sure the recognition question would have been passed.
Premier Roger Cook didn't front the media today, instead posting on social media, calling the referendum a difficult campaign and urging everyone to look to the future.
I think he botched it, and he knows he botched it.
The focus now on a united way forward.
Forming partnerships with Indigenous people at the community level and at the regional level, because that's where change will happen.
What I think the Australian people want us to do, whether they voted yes or no, is to work across the Parliament to make sure we do have policies that do close the gap.
Sarah Smith, 9 News.
Just 2 of WA's 15 federal electorates had a majority supporting the voice to Parliament. Here's Sarah Smith again with how your suburb voted.
More than 1.3 million people voted in WA, and at 63.4%, our total no percentage was ahead of the national vote and the 3rd highest in the country. The Yes campaign had wins in 2 electorates, Perth and also in the Teal seat of Curtin. Like other states, the no vote increased the further we move away from the city. The massive Liberal-held remote electorates of Durack and O'Connor both recording no votes above 70%. Opposition also strong in the Liberal division of Canning. In the metro area, Fremantle was close, with 53% saying no. But it was a clear no in a number of electorates across the metro area. The seats of Cowan, Hasluck, Pearce and Moore all recording more than 60% of voters against the voice proposal.
The sorrow and soul-searching is now underway in the Yes camp. Despite the loss, an emotional Prime Minister today declared it's not the end of the road for reconciliation.
An Indigenous flag flies at half-mast today after more than half the country said no last night.
I'm sad. A lot of work has gone into this.
A night of tears for those who wanted change, forlorn faces at the Yes reception early in the evening, and as the polls closed in the West, the Prime Minister closed the campaign.
While tonight's result is not one that I had hoped for, I absolutely respect the decision of the Australian people.
That decision conclusive and comprehensive. Tonight, the Electoral Commission has the national result at 60.54% to no, 39.46% yes, a margin of more than 2.8 million votes, and with postals still to come, that will likely increase.
They've said no to grievance and the push from activists to suggest that we are a racist country when we are absolutely not a racist country.
This is not the end of reconciliation.
The referendum defeated in every state, almost 7 in 10 Queenslanders voting no, more than 64% in South Australia, 63% in WA, 60% in the Northern Territory, 59% in New South Wales and Tasmania. Victoria was closer, but hardly close. Only the ACT returning a yes majority.
This is the referendum that Australia did not need to have.
The opposition leader victorious last night, but today a feeling of solace over celebration.
I feel a sense of relief for the country because I think we would have changed as a country and not for the better.
Corporate partners, premiers, prime ministers, celebrities and song. All upstaged by millions in the suburbs and the regions.
And we were not able to reach you and cut through what has been the single largest misinformation campaign that this country has ever seen.
No referendum has ever succeeded without bipartisan support, and no one had a larger impact than Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price.
We have to step away from grievance. Attempting to bring about change through grievance has evidently got us nowhere.
At a pub in Hobart, they watched and wondered what now.
The same issues are still here today as what was yesterday, and they'll be still here on Monday. Education, health, all these issues.
The first thing we have to do now, we need to come together in unity.
From the government's point of view, obviously, that is now our focus. The Australian people have asked us to do this in a different way. We hear that and we'll do that.
And finding that different way begins this week when Parliament returns here in Canberra.
This moment of disagreement does not define us, and it will not divide us.
We will carry on and we will move forward and we will thrive.
The referendum defeated, tonight there seems little appetite to do it again anytime soon. Charles Croucher, 9 News. Anthony Albanese has fulfilled his election night pledge to hold this referendum, but the Prime Minister and his judgment have emerged scathed. In contrast, Peter Dutton and the opposition will return here buoyed by the result. As for Australians, well, for the vast majority, cost of living remains the #1 issue. And unlike Brits after Brexit or Americans after Donald Trump, this vote won't define a generation. At Christmas gatherings this year, it's far more likely the discussion will be about how to put food on the table and not how people around it voted in October.
To the Middle East, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned the next stage of the war is imminent as Israel prepares to attack Gaza by air, land and sea. But it's already in the depths of despair. Food and water are critically low and rockets keep falling, even in designated safe zones.
They had been guaranteed 6 hours of safe passage. Young children and their parents obeying an Israeli order to flee south if they wanted to live. Killed when strikes hit their convoy, toddlers amongst the dozens of victims. This was on a road they had been instructed to use by Israeli authorities. Ambulances also hit.
They have targeted all the people who are transferring from the north to the south. They have targeted us now. They have targeted us now.
Overwhelmed hospitals inundated with the injured. This paramedic collapsing on the ground. They bombed displaced people in trucks, he says. Palestinian authorities blame Israel, which says it's investigating.
So it makes no sense for the IDF to have done it. Who would want to stop those same civilians? The same organization that did the roadblocks, Hamas.
With every passing hour, the situation is becoming more desperate.
It is not safe for people to be moving minute by minute. They have no idea if their family will be annihilated.
Ice cream trucks are being used to store the dead, with morgues at capacity. 35,000 people are sheltering at Gaza City Hospital in the north, hoping for safety in numbers. Here, more than 100 babies have been orphaned.
The healthcare system was always extremely fragile. We considered it a humanitarian chronic emergency over many, many years, and now it's a complete catastrophe.
The south is hardly a safe haven. It bore the brunt of Israeli strikes today. And as tens of thousands of refugees arrive there, resources are already critical. The UN says access to water has become a matter of life and death, pleading for an end to Israel's total blockade.
We're not out to hurt the Gaza people, but we're also not responsible for them.
But there will be more hurt. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visiting troops at the border, saying the next stage is coming and asking soldiers, are you ready? The military has now announced an impending air, sea and land attack. The statement, with no timings or specifics, has threatened to wipe Hamas off the face of the earth.
We are 10 kilometres from the northern Gaza border, and as you can see, there's fields of IDF tanks amassing here, waiting for their next order, which could be an all-out ground assault.
But the mood changed quickly.
Up to the car. We need to go? Yeah, I need to go.
We need to leave?
It's a closed area.
Is it dangerous here?
Yeah, it's a military area.
You need us to leave? All right.
Yes.
We'll leave now.
Thank you.
We'll leave now. We're seeing more and more tanks start to roll right past us, heading towards Gaza, as the intensity is really picking up in these last couple of minutes.
Reservists from around the world have flown in to join Israel's war against Hamas. At a checkpoint in Sderot, we came across a soldier from Sydney's eastern suburbs who had a message for his family.
I miss them and I hope they're safe, because I heard there were all sorts of awful outrages in Australia.
For the families of the 150 hostages, the agonising wait for answers. What started as a lone protest by one family member today grew to hundreds of Israelis begging for their own government to do more.
Israeli government should say that she will release all the Palestinians we hold in our prison in condition for our kidnap.
Today, Israel says it's killed one of the leaders of last week's attack. The Hamas commander was released from Israeli jail in a prisoner swap in 2011. In southern Israel, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
And Europe correspondent Edward Godfrey is in Sderot near the Gaza border with the latest on Israeli Defence Force movements.
Well, a short time ago, the IDF gave a warning for residents inside Gaza. They've got 3 hours to move from the north to the south to try and get to safety. And we just know how difficult that has been to move that many people to the south of Gaza. Just over my right shoulder here, you're looking straight through directly into Gaza across the border there. In the last half an hour, things have really escalated. There's been a lot of shelling by the Israeli troops and also several rounds of machine gun fire. So some very close-range battle going on ahead of this incursion.
Trapped Australians in Israel have a glimmer of hope tonight as the federal government confirms multiple repatriation flights are scheduled to depart in the coming hours. While it's a relief for the hundreds stranded, there's no end in sight for those trying to cross the border into Egypt.
Tamara Porat from Sydney is one of the lucky ones, but she says it's bittersweet.
This is very difficult. I'm torn. My family, my mother, who is 75, my sister and her family, extended family are all here.
Tamara is leaving Israel for Australia after earlier repatriation flights were cancelled, deemed too dangerous. But help has arrived.
The Australian government is planning multiple flights to depart from Tel Aviv today for Australians wanting to leave. This is a mixture of government chartered and Air Force planes.
The Foreign Minister is also trying to get 20 Australians out of Gaza. At its border with Egypt, the queue to flee is growing.
It's a really scary thing for me.
The Rafah crossing is the only way from Gaza into Egypt. It's about 4 kilometres north of the Israeli border. Foreigners had been told they could leave, but Egypt suggests they can't until Israel lets aid in. Hamas claims Palestinians are going nowhere.
I'm telling my brothers in Egypt, our decision is to stay in our lands.
And tonight there's a warning war could spread as Iranian and Hamas leaders embrace. Tehran says it will get involved if Israel invades Gaza. And Iran's foreign minister says if Lebanese militant group Hezbollah ramps up its attack, Israel will feel a huge earthquake. It led to this warning to Australians.
If you are in Lebanon, you should consider whether your need to remain there is essential.
Today, the US president spoke to Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas and Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu. Outside the White House, protests against Israel's attacks on Gaza. As the anger from pro-Palestinian supporters builds, the concern is what happens next in a conflict that has already claimed so many lives. Tonight, some pray in hope, but the light is fading. In Washington, D.C., Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
Hundreds of Israel supporters have filled our CBD, standing in solidarity with friends and family trapped in the Middle East conflict. Loved ones tonight anxiously waiting for repatriation flights to bring them back to Perth.
Praying for peace, singing for the safety of loved ones. Hundreds of people filling Forest Chase.
Israel has the right to defend itself.
Standing in solidarity with Israel.
Today we are united, standing strong with Israel in solidarity as our hearts tear apart, as our tears come down our eyes.
Avi Cohen anxiously waiting to be reunited with his 2 daughters here in Perth. Kathy and Tamara working near the Supernova Music Festival moments before it was targeted by Hamas.
When they saw the missiles, they decided to leave immediately. Some of their friends took the wrong turn and they lost their lives. I'm almost crying. She rang me and she said, Dad, by mistake, you have your 2 girls with you now. It's so sad.
The faces of hostages held close as emotions ran high.
Bring them home. That could be my friend's grandson. And we are so angry. We want them back.
Today's event has been peaceful with no major incidents reported. Police hope it'll stay that way with more rallies expected to be organised in the coming weeks as the conflict continues.
We don't want any conflict of any kind. We're people that we just want to bring light into the world. We just want to be able to be good.
Rallies continuing across the country today. Thousands turning out to a pro-Palestine rally in Sydney.
Free, free Palestine!
This time, no violence or anti-Semitic chants. While it was mostly calm in Melbourne until a flare was lit. As supporters desperately hope for change. Amber Wilkinson, 9 News.
A convicted killer and rapist who allegedly led police on a 3-day manhunt after removing his ankle monitor has fronted court. Paul James Carr made no application for bail, slapped with 6 new charges. The 55-year-old was arrested in Claremont last night. He was released from prison last year after being jailed for raping a Kalgoorlie teen and murdering a man in 1987. Hundreds of Western Australians putting their bodies on the line, all for a good cause. Still to come tonight, the 24-hour non-stop Relay for Life, raising vital funds for cancer research. Hear from cancer survivors as they hit the track, plus find out just how much was raised. That's at 6:30 tonight. Well, it's been a spring weekend fit for the beach. Sheiree Biggs joins us now with the weather details. And Sheiree, another scorcher on the way.
And Natalia, this has been a real taste of summer for us with that return to very dry heat, something we haven't seen for a while. It is all originating in northern WA at the moment, filtering down the coast though along a heat trough and into the south of the state. It peaked at a scorching 43.3 degrees in Carnarvon, their hottest October day in at least 76 36 years. Not quite as hot here in Perth, but hot enough, with the mercury peaking at 32.7 degrees late this afternoon. There is also a smoke alert current for southern suburbs and the northern Peel area. It's from prescribed burning and is expected to clear early tomorrow morning. We are in for another scorcher, Natalia. It's set to peak at 36 degrees tomorrow, so I'll have the rest of the week's weather coming up soon.
Well, that is hot, Sheiree. Thank you. Arson squad detectives investigating a suspicious car park blaze in the city. We'll have details on that one after the break. 6 pedestrians run down as a ute ploughs down a Sydney footpath. The former airline executive who's just become New Zealand's new Prime Minister. Plus, pop star Madonna opens up about her brush with death. A 7-Eleven petrol station in Ellenbrook has been trashed, with the damage bill expected to be at least $30,000.
What the is going on here?
Police eventually arresting 33-year-old man Joseph Ugal. He faced court today and was refused bail. Arson squad detectives are treating a fire in a city car park as suspicious. Smoke was seen billowing from a building at the corner of Stirling and James Street just before 6 o'clock last night. Firefighters quickly extinguishing the fire, burning near a storage area. No arrests have been made. A group of friends has narrowly survived despite being mowed down by an out-of-control ute in Sydney's inner west. The 19-year-old driver was arrested at the scene as crash investigators now look into the exact cause of the mayhem.
A group of friends make their way home after a night out, then forced to brace. A ute mounting the footpath, 3 tons of steel ploughing into 6 people. A 19-year-old P-plater behind the wheel. Stunned onlookers crowd around the mayhem just before 12:30 last night, many calling 000.
It was quite chaotic. Obviously, we have multiple patients with various injuries. Someone else is bleeding. With fractures and also with bystanders that are trying to help.
More than a dozen paramedics responded, police quickly speaking with those so lucky to still be alive. 3 of the victims, all in their 30s, in a serious condition, suffering head, limb and chest injuries. The other 3 with only minor injuries.
Very lucky no one died. That is Burwood, Chinatown. Lots of people around. So scary.
Officers arrested the teenage driver a short time after the crash, while explaining his version of events. It's understood the 19-year-old told police he blacked out behind the wheel, causing him to lose control. Still, he spent the night here at Burwood Police Station, where he was questioned before being released pending further investigation. What cannot be explained is just how these friends survived this. Hayley Francis, 9 News.
New Zealand has a new Prime Minister and centre-right government after voters elected former airline chief Christopher Luxon and the National Party. As counting continues, it's not yet clear whether he'll need 1 or 2 coalition partners.
In all our conversations with you, we heard a description of New Zealand that can be so much better than it is. And we know it, and you voted for it, and together we will make this an even better country.
Despite a significant loss, Jacinda Ardern's successor, Chris Hipkins, says he'll stay on as Labor leader. Stargazers in 8 US states have been treated to a ring of fire solar eclipse. It happens when the moon is fully in front of the sun, creating a halo effect which lasts a few minutes. South America will be the next best spot to observe the phenomenon in about a year's time. Madonna has spoken out about her near-death experience during the opening night of her Celebration Greatest Hits concert in London. The Queen of Pop was found unresponsive in late June with a reported bacterial infection and rushed to hospital, pushing the tour back by 3 months.
I didn't think I was going to make it. Neither did my doctors. That's why I woke up with all of my children sitting around me.
The 65-year-old said her children pulled her through before she belted out disco classic I Will Survive. A social enterprise in Melbourne is providing former prisoners with a second chance, employing them to deliver fruit, milk and pantry items. Fruit to Work is also helping rebuild their lives.
It's a workplace like no other. You won't get a job here without a criminal history.
Over the past sort of 12 to 13 years, I've spent 10 years in prison. I had a drug habit that, I could not shake for the life of me.
Father of 3, Rick Young, was hired at Fruit to Work a year ago. He's relishing the opportunity, now operations manager.
When you get out of jail, you sort of feel like you don't belong anywhere. When you get to this place and all of your past is brought up in the interview, you can sort of just relax. You don't have to hide anything.
I didn't feel like I was being judged. I didn't feel like I was being looked at differently. So it was really good to be able to, be open and not have to hide things away.
Nat Caldwell is a single mum to 3 and not proud of her past.
My kids, they were staying with my dad, and I got incarcerated. I was looking at anywhere between 3 to 6 years.
Released on a 4-year order through the county drug court, Nat is now not eyeing off a jail cell, but a promotion.
It's the best thing I've ever done for myself and my family.
Everybody at Fruit to Work is only interested in one thing, and that is to be better than who they used to be.
Employees pack and deliver food and pantry items to businesses and workplaces who are keen to be part of the solution.
Melbourne City Council, Melbourne University, Monash University, Mervac, Lend-Lease, John Holland, construction companies. We deliver to solicitors' offices, we deliver to factories.
These are genuine social enterprises delivering real impact and well worth looking at for supplying goods and services to your company.
When it launched in 2016, Fruit to Work made $200,000 in the first 12 months. This year, the enterprise will turn over $8 million.
All the money that Fruit to Work makes goes back into the people.
And the boss is also one of those ex-offenders the business has rescued.
I don't know where I would be if it wasn't for Fruit to Work.
The idea was to create an initiative that would reduce recidivism, and impressively, in the 7 years since its inception, no former inmate has reoffended.
What we do here is quite special, and the fact of having nobody go back to prison in the time of its operation, I think we're doing really well.
As for Rick, he's busy striving to be the best dad he can be.
My life is absolutely unrecognisable from where I thought it would be, a year down the track.
And Nat, she has dreams too.
I look at seeing myself, buying a house one day out of getting back on track and doing well.
Jo Hall, 9 News.
Still to come this Sunday, On the Pulse, the new device that can better assess when concussed players can return to the footy field. The unstoppable Neil Danaher puts on a show for his annual MND road trip. Fighting back, hundreds of West Australians run for cancer research. And later, the Australian entrepreneur cooking up a storm with a one-of-a-kind vending machine. A new device, the same size as a pair of headphones, could make head injuries easier to assess among athletes. A custom-designed headset detects changes in the movements of the brain called head pulses. Experts tested the device during footy games in Adelaide, finding more than 80% of players with a concussion had changes to their brain activity for up to 2 weeks longer than concussion symptoms. Up to 1,000 West Australians have put their bodies on the line for 24 hours, raising money for cancer research and prevention. Cancer survivors, sufferers and loved ones who have lost to the disease taking part in the Relay for Life.
For Karen Bentley, this is much more than a walk in the park.
It's a fun weekend, but it's also that remembrance as well. We're walking obviously as survivors.
8 years ago, the 51-year-old was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
The prognosis, I think, certainly for me, wasn't that great, but because of the research that's gone into cancer, I was lucky enough, I guess.
Her sister Dawn, lucky as well. The mother of 3 completing chemotherapy for breast cancer just 2 months ago. The pair, one of 68 teams, putting their body on the line this weekend in the Relay for Life. Walking 24 hours straight, raising money for cancer research and prevention.
Cancer never sleeps. That's what our theme was for this year. Every lap, we're grabbing a bead, and this is our team bead counter.
Cancer, one of the leading causes of death in WA, accounting for 3 in every 10 lives lost. This nationwide event, a gruelling experience.
My legs are hurting.
For a good cause.
It helped so many people.
with cancer, and it's not just about the fundraising, it's the camaraderie, it's supporting survivors and their carers.
More than 900 participants right now are finishing their final lap after a continuous 24 hours. This WA event estimated to raise around $300,000.
Vital funds to help save lives. Genevieve Lamond, 9 News.
The unstoppable Neil Danaher has put on a show in Victoria, dancing through a Hollywood-style finale to his annual MND road trip. This year, Danaher's Drive raising more than $2 million to help fight the beast.
The star of the show. Neil Danaher with a big beaming smile for his signature song. It was a finale fit for Hollywood, celebrating the end of another Danaher's Drive.
It was good to come out of my cage and tell you I'm doing just fine.
And even away from the bright lights, the man of the moment doesn't miss a beat.
Not sure all of you are doing just fine after last night, but hope you really have enjoyed the drive camaraderie over the last 4 days.
The regional road trip raising more than $2.06 million for MND research. Starting at the hangar, a 220-person carpool to Swan Hill, then to Shepparton, singing and dancing on the way. Before this finish, bigger than Ben-Hur in Creswick.
MND is such a beast, and there are so many things it takes away from you, but to see him up there dancing, we were in tears. It was just such a beautiful moment, and it's those moments that I'll lock away in my mind forever.
As will this star.
Safe travels home, and I hope to see you when Jen lets me out of my cage again. Until then, let's play on together and keep fighting the beast. Thank you.
Elizabeth Moss, 9 News.
Ahead this Sunday, the first of its kind vending machine hitting Australia. Details on its sweet treats, day or night. And rock royalty down under. Sir Paul McCartney arrives for his Australian tour. But first, here's Paddy Sweeney with sport. And Paddy, a frantic end to the trade period awaits.
It's going to be frantic indeed, Natalia. Just 3 days remain with the Dockers set to ramp up discussions as Freo fight for the right price for a want-away pair. Keeping on, Inglis set to stay behind the stumps for a crucial cup clash. And welcome back Sam as Kerr hits the back of the net. The future of Lachie Schultz and Liam Henry will again be front of mind tomorrow as the AFL's trade period ramps up. The Dockers and Collingwood to resume their conversation over a deal for Schultz, who's still under contract. The Saints are endeavouring to pull off a trade which allows them to land Henry while also keeping their 2 first-round picks, and the trade period ends on Wednesday. To AFLW, and Nam has inflicted the Eagles' second biggest defeat of the season, dishing out a 70-point drubbing. West Coast matching the visitors early before Alyssa Bannon stamped herself on the contest. The 21-year-old kicking Nam's first 3 goals, finishing with a career-best 5.
It's been all about Alyssa Bannon. There goes bang, kicks a handful, 5 goals for Alyssa Bannon.
Nam with 27 scoring shots to the Eagles' 2 in the 82-12 scoreline. Some of WA's young footy talent have impressed at the State Combine, producing results rivalling those seen across the nation. While they might not be the first names called on draft night, some are familiar. Sam Van Rooyen boosting his chances of following older brother and Melbourne forward Jacob into the system.
Hoping to catch the eye of recruiters and make their way onto an AFL list. State Combines have produced some pretty familiar names.
I hope we can find a Matty Prittis who come to this level of testing, I reckon on 3 occasions before he finally got a chance at the West Coast as a rookie, not as a draftee. Wins a Brownlow medal.
Just like Prittis, another Subiaco product in Riley Wills has plenty of fighting spirit. With one of the best times in the agility test, he was also fastest in the 2-kilometre time trial.
Knowing, I'm not like the most highly touted person, I had to, really put a good foot forward for this. So, I was happy to do that.
If his name isn't called come draft night, the goal is simple: never give up on the dream.
Get back to work, straight back to work, and try putting, my best foot forward to give it another shot in the coming years. Sam Van Rooyen, brother of Melbourne's Jacob, showing something special, producing one of the best agility scores across the nation.
For a boy of that size, he's 196, 197 centimetres, and he's got under 8 seconds for the AFL's agility run. It's a slalom run that shows how quick you are on your feet, and that was a brilliant time.
In the AFLW Combine, Ella Slocum, the fastest 2K time, ahead of Georgie Cleaver.
I think we're all just pushing ourselves to kind of have that same intensity throughout the whole state competition.
Joel Saratzis, 9 News.
West Australian Josh Inglis is set to get the nod ahead of out-of-favoured wicketkeeper Alex Carey for tomorrow's crucial World Cup clash with Sri Lanka. The game shapes as a must-win, with the Aussies winless from their opening 2 matches.
The Aussie Brains Trust working overtime to get their World Cup campaign back on track.
Well, after the last game was a little bit flat, but the last couple of days have been really good. Everyone's, kind of rolled up the sleeves and want to try and get to work and make amends.
Josh Inglis is in line to keep his spot ahead of Alex Carey. The keeper worked closely with fielding coach Andre Borovic during the Aussies' night training session in Lucknow.
We know what makes us a really good team. Again, it wasn't that long ago. We're number 1 in the world, so we don't have to look back too far to work out when we're playing our best.
Last night, 130,000 fans packed the stadium in Ahmedabad to see India continue their 31-year World Cup dominance over bitter rivals Pakistan.
Oh, is that ball round the legs? Seems like it was a googly.
After an undefeated start to the tournament, Pakistan lost 7 wickets for 29 runs.
Bowled in. It's just beat Bumrah. And the Pakistan innings in tatters now.
To be all out for 191. A classy 86 from captain Rohit Sharma.
There's that 6. That is beautifully played by Rohit Sharma.
Saw the hosts run down the total with 7 wickets to spare.
50 for Sheiree. And India finished things off.
Next up for India, Bangladesh, while Pakistan face Australia on Friday. Nat Yanides, 9 News.
An unbeaten 99 from Jordan Silk has given Tasmania day 1 honours in their Sheffield Shield clash with WA. On return to the lineup, speeds to Lance Morris striking with his first ball, but the day belonged to Silk, who will have to wait overnight for his shot at a century.
A little bit of swing, but right into the middle of Jordan Silk's bat. Picks the gap through cover, and that's just what you want as a batsman.
At stumps, Tasmania are 6 for 281. It's been a weekend to forget for the Wildcats. Their second loss in 3 days coming at the hands of the Sydney Kings. Captain Jesse Wagstaff returning to the starting lineup as Perth opened up a 12-point lead before a disastrous end to the first term.
Right place, right time. Galloway with the steal. And the bucket. 4 points in 5 seconds for the Sydney Kings.
Perth losing the rebound count by 19. The 99-86 defeat is the Wildcats' 3rd loss from their past 4 games. Sam Kerr is back with a bang, netting her first goal since that famous screamer against England at the World Cup. A perfect cross made light work for the Aussie, putting Chelsea's opener past Matilda's teammate Mackenzie Arnold in goals for West Ham.
Charles, first time ball in. Kerr! She missed an earlier chance. Very rare that she misses more than one.
The Blues winning 2-0, moving them to top of the table. Meanwhile, Perth Glory starting the W League in winning fashion. New recruit Grace Jarley making an immediate impact.
Striking from range. Oh my! Grace Jarley, take a bow.
Perth defeating Western United 2-0. And finally tonight, Tim Tszyu has done it again, retaining his WBO Super Welterweight title with victory over American challenger Brian Mendoza. Post-fight, Tszyu calling out Jamel Charlo, the holder of the other 3 world titles in the division, for a chance to become the undisputed champ.
Charlo, where you at? He'll probably, in his delusional head, he'll probably think that he's going to beat me. Come get it.
Tszyu is now 24-0 in professional bouts. He's got a great career to date, Natalia, and it's not going to end anytime soon, that winning run.
OK, Paddy, thank you. Next, how one Aussie baker's sweet treats, are available at the touch of a button. Plus, why the sneezing season is getting longer for hay fever sufferers. And Sheiree Biggs, more hot weather on the way.
It could be the hottest day we've experienced in 7 months, Natalia, with a whopping 36-degree maximum forecast. But the relief isn't far away. I'll have the forecast coming up very soon.
Hay fever sufferers could be facing the annual discomfort for longer in coming years. Researchers are warning coughing, sneezing and itchy eyes are coming on earlier due to worsening climate change. About 15% of Australians suffer the allergic response, with those aged between 25 and 44 tending to feel it most. Vending machines are stepping up a notch from the usual chips, chocolate bars and soft drinks. A young Aussie baker is now providing cute and delicious cupcakes to the masses at the touch of a button.
This big, bright vending machine has been on Kate Matheson's wish list for 2 years.
I dreamt of this sparkly machine that was pink, filled with sprinkles on the outside.
The 25-year-old entrepreneur started her cupcake business when she was 18. Now she's churning out 5,000 cupcakes a day. So to add to her bricks and mortar store, she wanted to use state-of-the-art technology to deliver her goods to people anywhere, anytime.
A lot of people do finish work late and they don't get time to go grab their birthday gifts. So a lot of people are using these machines at night time too, which is amazing.
The refrigerated device uses conveyor belts to ensure treats aren't tipped upside down. While you can get pet food or even a freshly made pizza, this is the first vending machine of its kind serving cupcakes in Australia. But the concept is commonplace overseas. In Japan, they deliver everything from noodles to burgers.
We've certainly seen a lot of innovative operators using vending machines to connect to a completely new audience.
Kate travelled all the way to Italy to find this specific machine. She even took some of her cupcakes with her to test them in it overseas. And with convenience front of mind, retail experts say we could start to see more devices like this in the future.
You can access, new markets with very little capital expenditure. You don't need to lease an entire store for a long period of time.
And the young businesswoman already has plans to expand.
We're hoping to have over 10 machines by mid next year. I'm really excited to showcase the fun and exciting side of convenience.
Madeline Spark, 9 News.
He's 81 and a great-grandfather, but Sir Paul McCartney seemed pumped to be back down under today, opening the window to deliver a thumbs up and a wave as he arrived in Adelaide ahead of his Got Back tour. McCartney kicks off the Australian leg of his tour next week. Unfortunately, Perth is not on the former Beatles itinerary. Stay with us. Sheiree is back with all your weather details right after this break.
Welcome back. Well, summer has arrived early with a string of days in the 30s, that very dry heat that we know and love of a Perth summer. Today we reached 33 degrees late this afternoon. A very balmy night ahead of us. It is still hovering around 28 degrees, so certainly time to get the barbie cranking. The heat is originating in northern parts of the state at the moment, the hot air filtering down the west coast trough. Geraldton has averaged 39 degrees in the last 3 days, the hottest 3-day October spell in 44 years and the hottest this early in the season in more than 80 years. Meanwhile, over in the southeast of the country, a chilly wet start to the working week, overcast and 18 degrees in Adelaide. Melbourne will see showers easing, but a top of just 15 degrees. It is becoming windy in Sydney and looking damp, a warmer 26. Looking around WA, and it's still hot, hot, hot for the north. Plenty of spots heading over 40 degrees again tomorrow. Pannawonica, Marble Bar and Kununurra, just to name a few. And a fresh gusty northeasterly wind coupled with hot and dry conditions will lead to extreme fire dangers for the mid-west coast. A top of 40 degrees in Geraldton and Kalbarri heading for 41. A quick check of coastal conditions around Perth now. A fresh easterly at 15 to 20 knots, tending northeasterly early in the morning and dropping back through the day, but swell is still sitting quite low, peaking at 1.5 metres. A scorcher across Perth's suburbs suburbs, the mercury should peak at 38 in Midland, 37 in Kalamunda. Thankfully, the winds are relatively light. We'll wake to a rather balmy morning. It won't dip below 20 degrees overnight in the city. We should hit 36 degrees in the late afternoon. Some mild conditions ahead though, the mercury dropping to 27 degrees Tuesday. A run of 25-degree days will feel a little more like spring, warming up again Saturday at 28 degrees. So Natalia, I'm loving this warmer weather, but I love the balmy nights even more.
Oh yes, warm nights are nice, Sheiree, as long as you've got the air conditioning remote close by.
Exactly.
All right, thank you so much. That is 9 News this Sunday. Thank you for your company. I'm Natalia Cooper. From the team, enjoy your evening. Good night.